This section of the Continental's panel is heavily corroded. I'm just scraping away the loose flakes to assess the true depth of the damage. This Bentley S3 Continental hub is heavily oxidized. We need to scrape away these layers to assess the true damage underneath before restoration. There's always the inspection. The first step, use the flashlight to check for structural integrity. We're starting with the windows. A clean microfiber towel reveals the extent of the dust on this beautiful dashboard.
First step is always documentation. We need to capture the extent of the corrosion on the S3's body panels.
When tackling rust this heavy, you need to be aggressive initially. Clear the big sections before switching to the finer brass brush for the edges.
This is the original Bentley S3 Continental grille badge. As you can see, it's heavily corroded and covered in moss. As you can see, this engine is incredibly dirty. We'll start with the radiator cap.
Saturate the area thoroughly, let it sit for a moment, then use a stiff brush to work the cleaner deep into the components. We're draining the old fuel now. As you can see, it's quite dark. We want to catch every drop before we remove the tank entirely.
First, we apply penetrating oil to these rusted bolts. Let it soak in for a moment before using the ratchet.
This one is completely seized. We'll have to drill the head right off, and we'll mark it so we know to replace it later. We start by saturating the seized bolt with penetrating fluid. After letting it work in, we use the ratchet.
As we pull back the carpet, you can see the extent of the water damage. This floor pan is completely rotted through.
The first step is carefully scoring the old headliner. As you can see, the foam backing has completely disintegrated over time. As you can see, this body filler is hiding a lot of corrosion. We need to get down to the bare metal before we can even think about shaping.
We're using a sharp scraper here to remove the brittle filler. See how it cracks away from the original steel? That's exactly what we want. Next up is transferring the chassis to the next bay. We need to ensure a perfectly smooth transition to avoid any damage.
We secure the aluminum in the vise and meticulously hand-form the curve using the ball-peen hammer, ensuring a perfect fit for the S3 Continental.
We're using a high-quality pinkish beige filler here, spreading it thin to fill the low spots on the Bentley panel.
We use the flashlight to highlight any imperfections in the seam, then mark them for the next stage.
The tape shows 42.5 inches here. The panel gap is exactly 3 millimeters. Now let's note that down.
We apply the polyurethane sealant smoothly along the seam, then use the leak detection fluid to ensure a perfect seal.
Now that the bodywork is complete, we can focus on the details. The gaps are precisely uniform, as you can see here.
The key is maintaining a consistent distance and overlapping each pass by about 50% to ensure a flawless finish.
We're using a high-volume, low-pressure gun here to lay down the first coat of high-build primer on the Bentley hood. You want to maintain a consistent overlap.
We sand until the surface is perfectly uniform and smooth to the touch. This ensures the final paint will lay down flawlessly.
After removing the old bushing, the next step is thoroughly cleaning the arm using the brush and degreaser.
We center the new bushing precisely under the ram. Now, watch as the hydraulic press.
We're just tightening up the control arm here. Hear that click? That means it's set.
We're installing the new steering linkage now. Once the bolts are torqued correctly, we apply the yellow witness mark.
All right, before we install the new suspension, we meticulously organize all the components. We have the bolts here, the washers, and the bushings ready to go.
Sorting the electrical components is crucial for the rebuild. We use labeled bins for everything, as you can see with the S3 relay here.
Now we're torquing the rear suspension links. You want to make sure these are nice and tight, exactly to the factory specifications for the S3. We secure the return springs and mount the new rotor. Finally, use the air ratchet to tighten the lug nut to spec. Once the front pipe is seated, we secure the first hanger. Then, using the torque wrench, we tighten the clamp to the factory specification.
Steady now. The clearance on the S3 is tight, so we're taking our time lowering it onto the mounts.
With the bolts loosened, we can carefully lift the front cover and reveal the timing mechanism underneath. We're using a specialized solution to remove decades of grease and grime from the Bentley components. The bore gauge shows minimal wear, which is excellent. We cross-reference with the straight edge to ensure no distortion, and then we log the precise figures here. Now we compress the spring fully to expose the stem. Then, carefully drop the collets into the groove before slowly releasing the tension. Now we apply steady pressure until we hear the click. There it is, perfectly set.
We carefully thread the main jet into place, ensuring it's perfectly seated before we bring the fuel line over and secure the fitting tightly.
All right, we're drilling out the main oil gallery plug here on the S3 block. We need to be careful to maintain pressure. And there we go, that should clear the blockage nicely.
Now we install the front pulley onto the crankshaft. Once it's seated properly, we'll use the torque wrench to tighten the retaining bolt to the exact factory specifications.
We use these hog ring pliers to secure the burlap tightly to the frame. You want to make sure it's completely taut before moving to the next section. First, we apply a precise layer of adhesive, then carefully align the foam to the frame and press firmly to secure the bond.
Next, we carefully position the lambswool mat, ensuring it tucks perfectly beneath the chrome trim.
Applying the sound deadening is crucial for a quiet ride. We use a roller to eliminate any air bubbles and ensure maximum adhesion to the chassis.
Following the template closely is crucial for these curves. Take your time and let the shears do the work.
Meticulous documentation is key here. Once the wires are labeled and photographed, we can install the refurbished trim piece.
First, we crimp the new connector securely. Then, using the heat gun, we shrink the insulation tightly around the joint.
We'll start with the headlamp assembly, connect the power.
We start with the brush to loosen the decades of grime, then switch to the cloth for that mirror finish. This Bentley deserves nothing less.
Now we fit the new belt over the pulleys. Using the torque wrench, tighten the tensioner bolt carefully. Give it a quick spin and check the tension. Perfect. After lubrication, we test the main lever. Watch the brass gears cycle. The mechanism should snap firmly into place, just like that.
Meticulously lowering the carburetor into place. We want to ensure a perfect seal before tightening the fuel hose clamp right here.
We use the scraper to gently level the dust nib with the clear coat, then buff the area clean.
Right here, this imperfection needs careful attention. A gentle scrape, then we wipe it clean, revealing the true depth of the paint.
Attention to detail was paramount. Every single spoke on this S3 Continental wheel has been hand polished to achieve this flawless, deep luster.
The ride is incredibly smooth.
It truly is. The team did an amazing job with the restoration.
The restoration is complete. It's been a long journey, but the Bentley S3 is finally back on the road. Subscribe for more. After months of meticulous work, the Bentley S3 Continental is finally back on the road. Don't forget to subscribe for more restorations.